the war that is in there. And as a cabinet secretary, then it is your job to ensure, hey, Niaje, how will I ensure that my country has fuel products at an affordable rate and that we do not suffer these shortages? So for the cabinet secretary, like you've said, maybe he did not get these letters, but as a cabinet secretary alive to everything that is happening, not only in Kenya but around the world, shouldn't you at least be top of things to ensure that everything goes as per the books? Because that thing was like on the seas for almost 10-15 days, making its way to the country. It got into the Kenyan territories. We have maritime officers. We have Kenya Navy. No one even picked it up to say that, hey, there is a vessel that is coming. Government of Kenya through the NIS DCI, Ebu Angalien.
No, obviously the relevant officers picked up the signals that there's this content coming up. They even did, they checked on the standard and they said the sulfur content probably was not appropriate for Kenya. But in my view, while technically speaking, a cabinet secretary is only responsible for policy direction, but when you have this kind of geopolitical matter, then you should be very interested in the operational aspects of it. But again, the same cabinet secretary was on an entirely different station, but it did not seem to understand the cost of energy products in Kenya as compared to the rest of the world. And I even understand that not a long time ago, the head of the public service expressed concern that a number of public servants of rank, well, including cabinet secretaries, have been spending most of their time outside their offices, doing everything that they do not need to do.
Campaigning, just say it.
Well, campaigning instead of focusing on delivery. But again, you see, you raise what you're talking about really is around the Leadership and Integrity Act.
Thank you, yes.
What is the space of Chapter 6? What is the space of Article 10? How are leaders supposed to behave, whether in private or in public? I would imagine if you're the CS for energy and you hear that there is going to be a conflict in the Middle East, even right now, I would expect any responsible cabinet secretary in Kenya today, any responsible principal secretary in Kenya today, to know that right now there's a ceasefire in the Middle East, that the Iran civilization has not been compromised, that Mr. Trump has taken a backseat, and at all times you're asking yourself, how does this affect my docket? If an ordinary Kenya right now understands the conflict in the Middle East, but it's been very interesting. If you follow the social media, the Iran embassies all over the world, they've got very serious content.
Zimbabwe,
Zimbabwe, even in South Africa, they've got very serious content. And I think some clever scholars and practitioners would actually need to study how Iran is responding to these issues. You know, they said to Mr. Donald Trump, wait a minute, we've lost the keys.
The keys,
But I've said this morning, they said, we found the keys. You know, this is very interesting. And maybe it's something that people in diplomacy will need to study. But again, talking about the Leadership and Integrity Act and responsibility, you saw what happened at Bunge a few days ago, where you had 8 senators accosting a governor, Governor Lati. And you know, because I do risk analysis, I sat back and asked myself, you've got 8 senators, and understand all senators have got bodyguards, armed bodyguards, and a governor has got armed bodyguards. Can you imagine, in that setup, now you've got 9 policemen with weapons. Can you imagine for a second, through an error of omission or commission, one of the bodyguards decided to
open fire. And you are outside, or rather, I don't know whether it was within the precincts, but at Parliament, National Assembly, and Senate. That is number one. Then I also asked myself, if these senators, Kenya has got 48 governments. President Ruto runs one government, and each governor runs a government. Now, if you have 8 senators manhandling an elected governor, what happens to a common man? I'm not going to use your name or your name because you're not common men. But what happens to Wanjiro or Alima if she comes in town? That is my second observation. The third observation, President Ruto has indicated that a number of members of the National Assembly are victims of corruption. That when you're having a serious bill, serious conversations, serious negotiations, a number of them are beneficiaries of khaki envelopes. In the bathrooms. So you're given a khaki envelope in the bathroom and you change your position. In other words, the head of state of Kenya, the head of government, and the head of UDA has gone to the top of Mount Kenya and said there is corruption at the National Assembly. Now, the Council of Governors have indicated that wherever they're called to this specific committee at the Senate, they're expected to deliver a tranche. And understand the going rates. These are rate card. There are small counties, 4 million, and then depending on your allocation, it can go as high as 10 million. So the Council of Governors have accused Senate committees. The President William Samuel Ruto, has accused the National Assembly. And then the relevant accountability agencies, EACC and the DCI, have not said anything. I have not said anything. Now, on my way here, I saw hardworking Kenyans walking from Kibera to industrial area. Those guys are breaking their backs to earn an honest living. Out of all the money they're going to make today, assuming they make maybe 100 shillings,
40
about 40 shillings will go back to the government as taxation. And you should see those guys. I mean, those guys have got zero fats. So they are really sweating hard. Now, I'm asking myself, shouldn't EACC and the DCI take cue from the fact that the president has raised these concerns, and also and also the Council of Governors have raised their concerns about the conduct of the National Assembly and Senate?
So Dismas, I think you're speaking to a rot in the society that we love corruption when it's working for us.
Absolutely. I remember who said that? There's a retired senior police officer, and there was even a research done at Aga Khan University, where even the Kenyan youth said they